How's everybody doing? This is Megaruler, European League basketball coach for Fantasy Sports Insider. Just want to remind everybody that EuroLeague sports will be free on FSI. All you have to do is go to FSIDFS.com and you can see the information there, sign up for an account, join our Discord, and you'll be able to get EuroLeague basketball coverage for free for the first month, which I believe will cover almost like 8 to 10 slates. So if you're not familiar with EuroLeague basketball, it's kind of like the Champions League in soccer. The only difference is that some teams are qualified for many years, and it's a very complicated process, so we're not going to go into that. But basically you have 18 teams, some of the top basketball teams in Europe. They play about once a week. Sometimes there's double game weeks. This slate, it's broken up into 5 games and then 4 games. There have been some strange slates last year where it was like 7-2 or like weird number splits. But one thing about it which is really neat is the scoring system on DK is almost exactly the same as for NBA. So if you're familiar with NBA basketball, it should be very easy for you to play EuroLeague. Rosters a little bit different. There's no center position. You get 2 guard positions, 3 forward positions, and 1 utility position. And there's no dual position players like you see in NBA. So a player's either a guard or they're a forward. With roster construction, it's pretty easy to stack a team. If you really like a team, you can take all 5 starters, 2 guards, 3 forwards, and then just make sure that the person in your utility is not somebody that's playing in the same game. Always recommendation is that you make sure that your utility player plays the late as possible, because EuroLeague is probably one of the most tilting sports out there. Any of you who have played NBA DFS knows how frustrating it is that lineups come out 2 hours, hour before lock. Then you get like late scratches and lineup changes and things like that going on. EuroLeague, you don't get the starting lineup till potentially 5 minutes before the game locks. Now, occasionally teams will send out maybe 10 minutes before on Twitter what their starting lineup is going to be, but oftentimes you have to go to EuroLeague website or the app on your phone and just keep on hitting refresh until that lineup pops up. So that's what we try to do is in our Discord we will post the lineups as soon as we see them and make any comments on any players. The thing too is, if you have watched Champions League soccer, a lot of these, most of these teams play in domestic leagues also. There's also some weird rules and regulations. Each country, like in Turkey, you can only have a certain amount of non-Turkish players on your team, so a lot of times you might look at the domestic box scores and think a player's injured or they've fallen out of the rotation, but it's simply they haven't played only because of the qualifications there. They also, especially when you have some teams playing domestic games over the weekend, and then you have a double game week, and then they have another domestic game next weekend, you're going to end up seeing some rotation. So people that you think might be starting that are regular starters might be rested. Sometimes players that you think would be playing you won't even see available in the box score, which means they're probably not going to play that day. So this is not a set it or forget it sport. It's something that you need to be available for the lock of every single game if you want to be successful for it. So let's start breaking down this slate. First game is EFES versus Zent. EFES probably would have won the league last year if they kept on playing. They only had 4 losses and they're an amazing season. And EFES only lost 1 player, minor guy, and they picked up Ertan Ghazi. Don't know much about him. EFES hasn't played any games in the preseason. I see to get any data on him, so that's one thing. So looking over EFES roster, they pretty much bring back the same players. A lot of good players here. They're favored by 8.5 points over Zen. Zen plays strong defense. Their second year in the EuroLeague for them, and they made a lot of changes to their roster. So we know what they kind of did last year. They played at a pretty slow pace, but this has an over/under of 161.5, which is pretty healthy. But it's probably mostly going to be FS pacing upset. So I was looking for plays here. Dunstan at center is a pretty solid guy. Singleton also. Last year they pretty much cashed most slates. One thing in NBA, like when you're looking for X value, which is what the amount of points are divided by their salary divided by 1,000, you're usually looking for like 5 to 10x. In EuroLeague, the scores are much lower. They don't play a full 40-minute game. It's a 40-minute game, and these teams are deep, and there's a lot of rotation for most of them. So what I usually look at is like 2.5x is really good for cash, and probably 3x for GPP. So Dunstan and Singleton were pretty consistent last year, getting around that 2.5x. When you look at the guards on the team, Simon and Mikic and Shane Larkin, who's like emerged last year as like one of the superstars of the league. They are pretty much in the rotation there, but they're pretty deep in it. You also have Boubaros, who will play some guard, and Balbay too. So looking at them, like there were times last year where Mikic and Simon would start at guards, and Larkin would come off the bench, but as soon as he came off the bench and came in the game, he'd just completely dominate, but he still ended up playing like 25 to 30 minutes a game, which is the same minutes as the starters. So it's a tricky situation there when you don't see Larkin starting. With EuroLeague, you really want to try to lock in players that you know are starting, but Larkin usually comes off the bench and does really good. So he's got a really high salary at $13,200, and when it comes to the slate, you're really going to have to make a decision up top. There's 3 really strong guards between Larkin, Theus, and Mike James, and as we go through the slate, at the end we'll try to figure out who would be the best one to take for that. So again, looking at this team, really like Dunstan, Singleton, and Cash. Simon and Mikic are more GPPs. They've got tremendous upside, but their price tags are high, and they haven't consistently hit value. Boubaros and Police also, whether they start or not. GPP, they have some upside. They can smash, but they don't consistently do that. The one guy that was really good last year is Sandley. He started a little bit last year, and if he gets to start this year, he might definitely be one to look at. Okay. So we move on to Zen. Like I said, they had a lot of changes over the offseason. They lost Colton Iverson and Ian, who were centers, Renfro, Abasi, but they did bring in a lot of players. They brought in Casey Rivers, they brought in Gaditis from, he played on Milano last year. He came back from an injury and had a really slow start trying to get back to things. They brought in Billy Barron, who was a rookie last year, played for Predva. And then they also brought in Pangos, who went to Barcelona and didn't really hit it there, but he's a really good basketball player. So as you look at this team, looking at the forwards, I think Pontica would probably be the best cash play here. Seemed pretty solid last year. Will Thomas joins the team too. I believe he was the Finals MVP a couple years ago. Um, at 8,800, he's a really good player. Can be really dominant, but I feel he's a GPP on the slate. He just wasn't super consistent last year. Maybe the new team and new situation. Not a team that's not as deep. A team that's like trying to come together and find itself. He might become more dominant there. So definitely a lot of potential. Someone to keep an eye on. Don't know how this guard situation's gonna shake out. So looking at the guards, I believe probably Billy Barn and Collins will be the ones that get the start, but we still have Casey Rivers in the mix. He's more of a small forward, but can still play some guard, and Pangos. So I don't think really want to against a team that's might completely destroy them. That's been playing together as they start to come together. Really not sure that I want to take some shots on the guards, but in GPPs, again, like Rivers or Barron, Pangos, Holland, I just make sure that they're starting. Barron last year had games where he would just explode from the 3-point line, and then sometimes it'd just be crickets. So definitely a lot of potential there if you want to take a shot on him. Moving on to the next game, we have Olympiakos. They are taking on Sagiris. Olympiakos is favored by 7.5 points. This has the lowest total on the slate. Olympiakos is a very strong defensive team, and Sagiris played with probably the slowest pace possible last year. And for changes, there was some of these teams too. Let's see here. So Olympiakos got Kostas Lucas from Fenerbahce. They got Gene Charles from Asvel, and they picked up Charles Jenkins from Gravina. They also picked up some guys from some non-EuroLeague teams. Aaron Harrison is, I believe, is Andrew Harrison's twin brother. He played for Kentucky. So they sprinkled in some nice ones. They had a lot of injuries last year, especially in the center position for Olympiakos. New coach is really trying to find themselves, and some of the people like Wayne Baldwin and Brandon Paul and Dwight Bucks came in, and they served their purpose for that year, but they just didn't work out. So a lot of them moved on. Nikolaev, he was their center last year, and he's moved on to CSK Moscow. So definitely some changes with this team, but they should be pretty solid. Should come together and be decent this year. Probably on the fringe of making the playoffs. I look at it. As I look at the roster, the only one that I probably would really, just because it's such a low total, and Sagiris just like really likes to take the air out of the ball. Plays so slow. Lucas is the only one that I really probably trust in cash. Gene Charles and Prentice and Papa Kostas. Those guys sometimes are good on cash, but they're always like kind of on the fringe. They're like anywhere from like 2.25x to 5x. So don't know if I really trust them until I see how this new system and everything works for them. So pretty much kind of got to fade these guys. Spanulis, he's a EuroLeague legend, but last year there are times he'd come in and he'd look like his old self, and other times where he looked like he was getting old. So move on to Sagiris. They had some changes too. They brought in Joffrey Levine, who from Fenerbahce. They brought in Rubik, so it's kind of a revenge game from Olympiakos. Garino from Basconia. So These aren't like major players, but some nice new pieces. They did get rid of a lot of people like Jock Landale, Lede is gone, Ulanovich, Casey Rivers, who was just talked about going to Zen. So again, a lot of changes here. They have a new coach. So see, the coach is actually from the G League in the NBA. I think he was the Salt Lake City coach. So he's got some good basketball experience for that. So just looking over the team quick. Again, they played at a really slow pace. They favored to lose here. Joffrey on Fenerbahce, like he had an injury and he was coming back from it, and he was pretty stagnant. But towards the end of the season, before it got cut off, he started to come alive a little bit. So the guy's definitely got a lot of talent when it comes to like scoring points and rebounding. So he's only 3,900, so definitely take a shot for him in cash there, especially if he gets a start. Hayes, he's more of a GPP play. I think he's just under where it's comfortable for cash. The rest of the starters pretty much look like a fade. Thomas Walkup, he's a really good guard. Could possibly get you like 25 or 30 points there, and he's just under 10K, so I definitely like him. Grigonis, he should start too. He could definitely be a cash play. Again, things get a little bit muddy here, like as to who might start. I believe the guards will be Walkup and Grigonis, but Blinkus and Levekius definitely get a lot of minutes in the 20s, whereas like the first two probably give about 25 minutes. Blinkus and Levekius should give about 20 minutes apiece. So I think both of them are just kind of right on the cash line. Probably looking at Blinkus getting 12 to 14 points and Levekius anywhere from 15 to 20 points. So I'm okay with them in cash, but I just really don't like this team, especially against a really good defensive team. So if you want to be a little different, it might be a really contrarian stack with some nice players with potential, but overall, I just don't think this game is one that you really want to be looking at. Next up is Maccabi and Alba Berlin. Maccabi was an exciting team last year. This team like had so many injuries at one point. I think there's like one game they only had dressed like 6 or 7 guys because they were just bitten by the injury bug like all over the place. Again, they did make a lot of changes. Avina, he left. He got drafted pretty high in the NBA. Jay Cohen's gone. AC's gone. Nate Walters is gone. Tariq Black is gone. Jalen Reynolds is gone. Aaron Jackson is gone. These are all pieces that they brought in to just kind of stop the bleeding last year when they had so many people out. I think they also, I believe this is a team that brought back the corpse of Amari Stoudemire too, to just try to have some bodies and players. But they brought in Chris Jones, who looks like he was a good scorer in the Turkish league last year, and they brought in Sizik, who played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dragan Bender also, who from the Golden State Warriors. So this team is reloaded with some really nice pieces that they have. So not sure how Sizik and Bender are going to play, or if they're going to start. If they do, just with their NBA pedigree, especially Sizik. I mean, he didn't have a great close to his NBA career with Cleveland, but then again, like the team had a lot of depth there, and EuroLeague's much different. You should often see like some fringe NBA players come over here and do very, very well against this competition, especially if they are used to foreign brand of basketball. So both of them, I think, will have a successful season on this team. This team's got a 12.5. They're favored by 12.5 points. I believe it's the highest total in slate at 164.5. Berlin's like a track team, so the pace of this game is going to be excellent. So there should be a lot of good DFS gold here. So probably say Zig and Bender would be GPPs unless you see they're starting. I'm sure they'll get in and play. There's Oz Blazer, could be a good, just from what I've seen for box scores from him in the preseason. He seems pretty decent, so it could be a good value play. He's almost minimum price at 3,300. Othello Hunters was solid last year in the center position. Again, 10 points a game, 6 rebounds, get some shots, some blocks, some steals, like assists, like it does a little bit of everything. So he's definitely a strong mid-range cash play, only 8,700. So now the whole guard situation, just trying to figure that out. So you have Chris Jones, who just joined the team. He played 23 games last year, played like 34 minutes a game, averaged 15. So he would average like anywhere from 20 to 25 DK points, and he's like 3,600. So if he's starting, or if, it looks like he's going to play, like definitely love to take a shot on him. He doesn't not need much to make value at all. He only needs like 10 or 12 points. But if he comes out and he flows with the team and he's like, starts scoring and gets up to 20 TK points, I mean, he could be a slate breaker there. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but just looking at his Turkish numbers, there's definitely a lot of potential there for him. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on him. Elijah Bryant looks like he's going to get the same. Like Zooman is out. He was in the guard rotation last year. I think he played like small forward. Did really well. It's kind of hard to look at last year's numbers because a lot of these guys did so well because of the injury situations. So Wilbecken's a very good point guard. He's 10-2. Price is kind of steep, but he can get to like 25 to 30 points, DK points for you. Tyler Dorsey was solid too. If he's starting, might not hesitate to take a shot on him. He's only 78, so if he fits in there, he's probably more of a GPP because he's right on the fringe of cash, but he's got a lot of potential, a lot of upside. So he and Bryant both could get very hot. But again, you just have like so many guards there and don't know what the situation's going to be. So moving on to Berlin. Berlin is definitely going to be a high-scoring team this year. They're not going to be a contender, but they're going to be very fun to watch. So just looking at some of their roster changes that they had. Kavanaugh, Girditis, Hermanson, Mason, Nanoko, Obe. Kind of Obe, I loved him. That dude was such a big guy that he was so hard to defend. He didn't play too often, but when he did, he was kind of like Boban. He'd come in and score like points in bunches. But so they're all leaving. They brought in some other pieces. Ben Lammers is the one that I have my eye on the most. He's had a really good preseason. He's only 4,000. I could see him getting anywhere from 15 to 18 points, possibly, if he does start at center. I did see one website that said he's injured and that Thyman would be taking some of his minutes, but I couldn't verify that any other place, so I have to keep an eye on that. But if Lammers is there at 4K and he's starting at center on this team with such a high pace, even though they're a big dog, Maccabi doesn't really have like big men or more athletic big men, so definitely could look at playing him. Some other guys, Sigma, I mean, he's 11K, he's like one of the most expensive forwards, but definitely worth all the points that you're going to get from him. Like he's like a guy that's going to get you buckets of DK points. We're talking probably 25, 30, so Definitely one of the forwards to look at on a regular basis, especially with their pace and style of play. Guard situation again looks kind of muddy. My guess is that Silver and Eriksson will start. Molo joins the team. Like, he was good from time to time. If he starts, I see him as the cash play. Silva and Eriksson are very talented, but again, you just have such a deep guard pool here, and that's not even to mention they signed Jason Granger, who was off all last year with injuries, coming back. I think it was from like an Achilles or an ACL or something. So if he gets in, he's a veteran, very, very good, talented player. A little bit older, but still, if he gets back to 100%, can contribute. So again, I see him looking at Molo if he starts. Sigma, Luke Sigma, if you can spend up and forward, but definitely Ben Lammers is the one I'm keeping my eye on for this. Next game is we got a battle of contenders, probably Final Four teams, where you have CSK and Barcelona. So look at CSK first. CSK was the last champion of EuroLeague since they didn't crown one last year. They have made some changes too, and they brought in two really, really good EuroLeague players to add to the front court. The thing with EuroLeague is, I don't think there's no like salary cap. It's almost the same thing as soccer, like Manchester City. Like, you have these super teams that just keep on compiling like all the best players, and then you have some scrappy other teams that are there just trying to compete to see what they can do. And definitely CSK is one of these super teams. So they added Shingela, and he was a stud forward, and what can I ever say his name? Multinov. Nikola Multinov. He's the one that I was struggling to say. He's the one that left Olympiakos. So again, we don't know how their role is going to play in here. You have Mike James on this team also, who's like a stud guard, kind of like a James Harden. They did lose some players. They got rid of Costa Kufis. Kyle Hines went to Milano. Ron Baker, who played for the Knicks a little bit, limited playing time, had some flash in the pan moments there. So again, they didn't lose too much, but they gained a lot with these two players. Now again, you're dealing with a pretty deep team, and not as bad as the Spanish teams. One's on the slate, and the next one, Barcelona, we'll talk about, where they just are so deep that it's very hard, because a lot of especially the front courts, they just kind of muddy each other, and you don't know who's going to have the hot hand, who's going to get the minutes, what the rotation's going to be. So all of them are good players, and all of them could dominate, but a lot of the time it's hard to play them because you're guessing as to who the hot hand's going to be that given day. But Shingela is good. Ball and Boy, he started in center all preseason, and Shingela started at the power forward. So I can see playing both of them in cash again, but it's you're going to pay $10,100 for Shingela. He's worth it. But Barcelona's got a decent front court too, so it could be a tough matchup. Kurbanov will probably possibly start. Also, more GPP. He can be good. Will Kleinburn's the one that really intrigues me. If he's back, he got hurt last year. I think he tore his ACL, for maybe preseason or early on last season. But he's supposed to be healthy and back and ready to go. So I mean, if he's starting, you could consider him as cash. He's down a little bit. He's probably a 10K player, and you're getting him at like 9.5. So I like that. Multi Multinov Nikolai. He's actually out for this game, and so is Strelinkis. So that definitely opens up some more front court minutes. Doesn't jam it up as much. So Hillard and James should start at guard. James usually gets like 20 to 30 minutes a game. He just stays on the court and just does his thing, and he again, it's just like rostering like James Harden. He it's like raw points you're looking for like he's averages like 20 points per game. He gets like assists and steals, like maybe a block here and there. So again, you're gonna pay for him, but you get what you pay for. He's one that can get you usually up in the 30s. The only trouble with like these high priced players is if they throw an occasional dud, then your day's pretty much over because most of your roster was put on them. Hillard, he's a decent guard also. Hackett might get some minutes, but I see him more as a GVP player. Okay, looking at Barcelona. Let's see for their off-season moves. They have a new coach. They brought in Nick Katlatzis from Olympiakos, and they got rid of Tomic, Ribas, Delaney, Pangos. So they added a really, really good guard to a really, really good team. So that's going to be one of the toughest decisions, is like with these high-priced guards, like who are you going to play? Are you going to take Katlatzis, who's had a great year last year? You're going to take Mike James, who's a little bit more erratic, but probably has like the highest ceiling, or Mikic also, which Shane Larkin from EFS. He's definitely talented player also. So I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. Like, they're all high priced. They all have a lot of potential. It's just trying to figure out which one fits your build. I probably will lean towards playing James, just because Katlatzis is new to this team. I don't know how much time he's had to play with them, to gel with them, especially with COVID. It doesn't look like they've had much of a preseason. So Larkin, there's just a lot of other guards there too, and he was so good last year, but I don't know if they're going to be able to continue that. So plus I think they have like the blowout factor too there. This game should be closer, so Barcelona is favored by 3.5. That's 160 total, so it's kind of in the mid-range for the slate. So looking at the rest of the team, again, this is a team where there are like so many guys that could hit value, and they're all like so close to the 2.5. Riortic, he's very expensive at 12.9. Again, he's a very good, about 18.5 points a game, 6 rebounds. The one thing that you won't see in EuroLeague is like there was 0 triple doubles, and I think there's only a couple triple doubles the year before. They're very, very rare. Double doubles are not as rare, but you don't see like a guy can have a good game and not even break like 10 real points and 10 rebounds. Like they seem to be good all-around players. So Kyle Kirk and Mitrovic, I think, both center good decent cash plays here. Claver and Davies will also probably start. Elbeans, Hanga, I mean, they could all be GPPs. Like, there's a lot of talent in this team. Like, anyone can get there. But I think for cash, like, I just look at Kalathis and Mitrovic and maybe Kirk. The rest of them, if you want to throw them in for a GPP, just like Corey Higgins is like just so high at like 92. You have Hurtle there, like he came back from an injury. Don't know what his role is going to be. So really a lot of question marks going there. Okay, moving on to the last game on the slate is Asvel and Valencia. So, Asvel is a team where Tony Parker from the Spurs was president. He kind of went in there and cleaned house this year. He got rid of a lot of guys and brought in some new guys. His brother took over as the coach. So let's see here. They brought in Freeman, who seems to be like a really good all-around scorer. They brought in Mustafa Fall, who is 7'2", and he plays on the same Senegal national team as Taco Fall, if you remember him from the NCAA tournament, and I believe he's on the Boston Celtics now. But the one thing that's really interesting about him is like he and Taco Fall are no relation, which I found kind of surprising. But Fall had a really good preseason. They brought in Hayes and Norris Cole, who played in the EuroLeague previously. He's won 2 NBA titles, so a lot of nice new pieces on this team. And they lost Jordan Taylor, Charles Gloon, and Gene Charles. So they're supposed to lose by 9. It's very over-under, and this team is 152.5 because these teams aren't great. They play at average paces. But if I see like Mustafa Falls is starting, like definitely he could possibly get anywhere from like 15 to even 20 DK points. In the preseason, he averaged 11 points a game, almost 10 rebounds, 2 assists. I've played about 20 minutes. Started a couple of games, so definitely got some potential there. Lighty, I played him a lot last year. He's a really good mid-range play. He's only 7,500. Again, this isn't the greatest total, not the greatest team, but definitely if you want to try to fit in some of the higher players and want to get some good solid, if Lighty's starting at 7,500, definitely take that. Some of the other guys in this team, like Clutie and Nua, seems like one of those two might start, but they really kind of cannibalize each other. Nothing else. Freeman, if he gets to start, he's only 3,300. He had a really good preseason also. Played 25 minutes a game, 18 points. I think he actually led the team in scoring for the 3 preseason games they played, so definitely somebody I have my eye on. Norris Cole, if he can come back and retake the form that he had before when he was in EuroLeague, he's only 6,600. That's a solid for a cash play. I mean, you're looking at probably like maybe 3.5x for him. Diat also is a point guard, and he started a couple games last year. He'd definitely be a decent value. He's only 4,600, so if he's starting, I'd definitely look at him. So this is definitely a team that, like I said, it's not the greatest game, not the highest total, but it's a team that offers like a lot of fantasy value for you. And finally, moving on to Valencia. Their favorite in this game had a decent year last year. This year they brought in Clinic and Derek Williams, and Hermanson from, I believe he played for Alba last year. They got rid of Jordan Lloyd and Brock Moulton and Dorkamp and Balde. So, trying to, Valencia's culture is kind of like they're like a free-spirited basketball, just like have fun with the game. The fringe playoff team. They definitely have one stud that often played last year and often put in my cores. Dublicek. He's 9,300. Last year I think he was up in like the 10,000s. About 26 DK points. It's about 2.8x, and definitely where I want to be. Toby was decent too. That's his backup. Even though he's a backup, he came in, he'd get decent minutes. Play about 15 a game. So 7-2, he'd need about 18, 20 points. So maybe it's more of a deep GP. Might be a little bit steep there. Libanier, Lewis, he started a lot last year. Started 16 games, played about 20 minutes a game. He's like your proverbial like exercise bike NBA player where it's like a lot of effort, but in the end it really goes nowhere. Plays a lot of minutes and doesn't accumulate a lot of points. He's out there, but you just don't know what he's doing. So they brought in Hermanson. He was good last year when there were some injuries on the team that he played for, but in Finland, 9,900. I mean, he was decent. I think the price is a little too steep. I want to see how he does for a couple weeks before I pay that much for him. And again, you've got a saturated guard pool here. Sand Van Rossum is probably my favorite out of the bunch. 7K. Probably get you like anywhere from 18 to 20 DK points, which makes him get value. But then you also have like Vivas and Column there, so you've got like 4 strong guards, and they had like a 4 or 5 man rotation last year, but then some of them started getting hurt, so then some of them started doing really well, and that was really the time to play them. So looking forward to EuroLeague being back, and again, I guess the biggest decision is up top. You got to look at the 3 studs. Are you going to play Larkin? Are you going to play Cothias? Are you going to play James? Again, I'm going to side with James just because he's familiar with his team. I know Larkin is also, but I think he's got the most minutes and the most upside in the closest matchup. I'm kind of worried about a little bit with Larkin. First game with the blowout, they could throw in Buvaros and some of the guards too, and you might not have to play the full game. You might just get like 3/4 out of him. Again, some mid-range guys I'm looking at are Dublik, Norris Cole. I really like them, and again, if Fall or Chris Jones or Lammers is starting, any of those 3, I'm definitely going to want to lock them in. So again, it's hard with EuroLeague. What you got to do is you got to build your roster, and if you got to wait until 5 minutes before, and you just always want to have like an extra exit plan. So if some guy's not in, then have 2 or a couple other players in mind that you just quickly throw right in there, because it moves really, really fast. So looking forward to an exciting season. Just how might not have a full breakdown video or anything tomorrow for the slate, just because pricing comes out mid-afternoon on Friday, and it's really, or Thursday for Friday slate, and it doesn't give you the time to digest it and break it down and look at everything. But definitely have notes on possibly on our website or in Discord, so we will have information for you. So thanks for watching this, and just a reminder that if you subscribe to our channel and you go into the general section of our Discord, there's details there that tell you that if you get some of your friends to subscribe to our channel also, you can win some free stuff from FSI. So you can win like a day pass for any sport, or a VIP for the day, which covers all the sports, or even up to a weekly VIP pass if you just get 10 of your friends just to subscribe to our channel. So check us out at FantasySportsInsights.com. It's Megaruler signing off. Good luck, and let's see some green screens.